All right, what's going on, everybody? Good morning. And as the title says, the chapter has finally been closed. Third fight in the books. And Katie Taylor, she proved definitively now she won 3 fights. She's the better fighter. Going into the fight, I wasn't really excited about it. I didn't see the need for the third fight. Didn't hate it. Still watched it. I was at the casino last night with my friend. We were watching it. And it was a big enough fight where they had it at the casino. So, props to both fighters and props to Jake Paul and everyone involved with this event because it seemed to get a little bit of buzz. The Madison Square Garden did look packed. The fight was not a bad fight, but it just wasn't the barn burner the first two fights were. But nevertheless, I think Katie Taylor showed that she had versatility. She showed that she was the more well-rounded boxer in this fight because Katie Taylor, I believe, is a tad bit quicker with the hands. And I think there's a clear foot speed difference because Amanda Serrano, to me, is like a plotter. She likes to come forward. When she comes forward, she squares up a bit. She can put her shots together. Obviously, definitely a hard hitter, but against mostly the smaller opponents. And again, I hate to denigrate the woman. She is a good fighter, but I do think that she's a tad bit overrated. A lot of those titles that she's won, they were vacant titles. She's never really had that breakthrough career-defining fight, and this was the fight that was supposed to be the career-defining fight for her if she were to win it. And the fights were competitive, but to me, I always thought that Katie Taylor was the clear winner in all 3 fights. And I, like two of the judges, had it 97-93. Before I go on, Jess, I want to let you in because you were there. I want to get your take on the fight, the atmosphere, everyone involved that you interacted with there. Curious to see if you were able to catch up with Christine and what her thoughts were, because obviously her fighter, Metcalf, lost. But go ahead, jump in, man. What do you got for me?
Yo, B, what's up, brother, man?
Son,
Yeah,
son.
man, always good talking boxing with you, bro. What you call it? Yeah, man, it was fun last night. My son had a great time. The production was crazy. Just as soon as you go there, like they had the two inflated dolls of Serrano versus Taylor in front of the thing. I would say the crowd was like 80% Puerto Rican, like
Really?
20%. Yeah,
It was that
this time.
lopsided, huh? It didn't seem
Yeah,
like that
this.
from the reaction because when Katie Taylor would land a punch, the crowd seemed just as loud when she landed as opposed to when Serrano was landed. So I don't know. But
It
you
was
were there.
pretty
I'm not going to argue
overwhelming
with you.
in
You were
there.
there.
The
Yeah.
the the sounds was pretty overwhelming there. From what I saw, I mean, there was a few Irish, but from what I saw, it was mostly Puerto Rican. Um, yeah, and then no, I don't know. I texted Christina, inboxed her. While she was like, "I'm in the corner." I was like, "Oh shit, my bad. I didn't realize your fight was coming
Yeah,
up."
she was in the corner. I saw her.
And then I told my son, I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna take a picture with her." I tried to do a little flex, but then I tweeted her, and then she didn't get back to me.
Well, I mean, understandable. I mean,
Yeah, she's
her
busy.
fighter lost, and she had and you could see after that fight, Metcalf looked upset, and I'm not
Yeah.
sure, if she cooled down, but she seemed like she was a little bit hot. She's a little bit upset, and shout out to Christine because so many times, and I've been an advocate for this, and I've been critical when this doesn't happen. When your fighter's losing badly, she's getting hurt. I don't think Metcalf won a round. I mean, you could argue there was only one round left. Why not just let her finish? But again, that one round, who knows what could happen. But I shout out for Christine for caring about her and pulling her out because she realized she was getting hurt and she wasn't really doing well and she couldn't do anything to stop. She couldn't do anything to stop herself from getting beaten badly. So again, what are you going to do? Sometimes you're just in there with someone who's better than you and you have no answers. But shout out to Christine for stopping that fight because I thought that was a smart move. And too many trainers don't do that. Too many referees just let one-sided fights go on. We hear about all the bullshit about um, the PEDs and how people can kill each other, but people can kill each other in the ring too when someone's getting beat up. badly, and they're just being outclassed, and they have no path to victory at that point. It was clear that Metcalf wasn't going to win that fight. So shout out to her.
Yeah, and I told my son too. I said like by the like when she was like looked like she was like about to. She looked like she was going to get stopped a few times. I'm like,
Yeah,
yo,
she
she doesn't.
did.
I
She
was like, she
did.
don't want to be in there. Like you could
Yeah,
tell she didn't want to be in
she
there.
looked
You could tell.
discouraged. She looked like
Yeah,
bewildered
yeah.
in there. She just looked like she was being overwhelmed. She was like, you know, again, she did her best. She showed some bravery, obviously, and it's not an easy thing to do when you're being overwhelmed like that to hang in there. Because a lot of fighters, not a lot, but there's enough fighters that would look for the back door. So shout out to her for hanging in there. I got to give her credit.
Um, and then as for the main event, oh my God, what a letdown, man! Like I don't know, has there ever been such a letdown on like two great fights
Well,
in the
you
trilogy? Like
know, I was sitting next to my friend, and I'm like, I think this is going to be another barn burner. And he's like, I don't know. I mean, they fought each other twice. They know each other. He was questioning it, uh, and obviously, definitely, this was out of the three the least exciting. It was
it was a sparring match.
yeah, it was. You could tell Katie Taylor wanted to box. She wanted to use the distance. She was kind of sticking and moving. She would pop her, give her a quick 1-2, maybe slip a hook in there, and then she would just spin out of there, right? She would take a half step, she take that step back and a half step back and right and move off to the side, or she would pivot out. And she was definitely boxing from a distance. And when things got close, she was grabbing a little bit, roughhousing, but most of her work was done from the outside. And like I said, Amanda is a come forward plotter, right? And she's more of a mid range fighter. She's not great from a distance, and her feet are not the quickest. So she needs to really set her feet, and it takes her a little bit more time to set her feet. Katie's like that stop and pop quick, and she can pop out and then move quick and set her feet quick and pop out. Whereas
Yeah.
Serrano needs to really dig her feet into that mat and throw those punches where Katie's just like pop out, pop out, pop out. So that's the big difference. And you could see it. I didn't see 95-95. I mean, I was watching this fight and I was listening to the broadcast team and how they were scoring it. And I'm like, there's no way this is. I had it 97-93 like two of the judges. And obviously one of the judges had it 95-95. Again, some of the rounds were hard fought. They were competitive. It wasn't like Katie Taylor dominated this fight, but she was clearly winning rounds. You know what I mean? And at the end of it, I don't know. I always, when I watch these fights, I say to myself, who's doing the cleaner work? Who's controlling the fight? Who's actually the ring general? I know that word gets thrown around there a lot, but when you have a fighter like Katie Taylor who's able to dictate the pace of the fight, right, and fight the fight on her terms at the range and the distance she wants to fight it at, because Amanda wants to be able to set up shot in that mid range and really just sit down and land some of those big bombs. But Katie Taylor, as she said at the post-fight press conference, she keeps moving and making Amanda have to reset. And it takes Amanda more time to reset, obviously, than it does Katie. So that's why Katie's able to get the shots off and move out the way. And they both landed, according to the CompuBox stats, roughly about 70 punches each. But, you could see who did the cleaner work, who was more accurate with her shots, because Serrano threw a lot more, but Katie landed at a much higher percentage. And obviously, I'm not looking at it and counting punches while I'm watching the fight, but I just thought that Katie was doing the cleaner work. She was the sharper of the two. She was getting off first. She was quicker, and she was the more accurate, precise puncher in the fight. So I just thought that Serrano was following her around the ring a lot. She was out of range a lot, reaching with shots, and she was throwing so much, and she was missing a lot too. So the thing is sometimes when you see a fighter who's landed at a higher rate, that fighter appears to be the more precise, accurate puncher, and you kind of get the sense that just because someone's trying harder, it's hard to just give somebody a round based off of effort. I'm looking at the cleaner work. I'm looking at who's controlling the pace, who's dictating the terms in the fight, and who's able to do what they want to do more. And it just looked like Serrano was a little bit frustrated. She was trying hard to establish her distance and get in her comfort zone, but Katie just wouldn't let her do it.
Yeah, and then didn't me and you say before, like I was like, yo, I'm going for Serrano, but I don't really see like much. I don't see that what she could do different. Like I think Taylor might take the third. Like
The thing with Taylor is this, right? We've seen Taylor outbox fighters like she did last night. We've seen Taylor get into the phone booth and have to grind it out like she did against Chantel Cameron in the second fight, and what she did against Defel against Pursoon, right?
mhm.
That the other tough fighter that she fought, Delphine Pursoon, right? So we've seen her outbox fighters. We've seen her fight like rough, rugged fights on the inside, and we've seen her win in many different ways. Where Serrano is the type of fighter where she's this, like I said, the stalker. She reminds me of Trinidad a little bit. Obviously,
Yeah,
I'm,
yeah,
I'm not exactly like Trinidad because Trinidad was an all time great, but she's great in terms of female boxers. But Trinidad was another guy who didn't have the quickest feet. He needed to set his feet, and he was the guy that liked to kind of fight more inside to the mid range. Whereas Serrano, I think, is more exclusively mid range because sometimes if she gets in too close, she tends to smother her work. She likes to throw those kind of like short mid-range looping wide shots where Katie's more precise down the middle, boom, boom, boom. Whereas Serrano's like boom, coming like this, those looping over the top bombs,
yeah.
and then Katie Taylor just is like threading the needle. But I think Serrano tried to box a little bit more on the outside in this fight to her detriment, and I think part of the reason why was she got, when she did come forward in the last fight, they clashed heads and she had that big gash. She may have been worried about that in this fight because she knows
They
Katie
both
Taylor. Yeah.
they both were pretty cautious, I think.
Yeah. They were both kind of concerned because both of them had some rough fights. They remember how rough the first two fights were physically, right? So they
Yeah.
said to themselves, you know what? We're getting paid big money for this
Yep.
one. Why put ourselves through that again? Let's fight smarter, not harder. But in this case, Katie Taylor really was fighting smarter, and Amanda Serrano was fighting harder because she was working harder in here in there because she was doing the chasing, where Katie Taylor was kind of just letting her come pop, 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 and so yeah, the fight was uneventful. It was
So
definitely not as good as the first two,
you know what?
and
I
and
got
and
my bad. Go ahead.
and overall, I think the card was somewhat uneventful. But like, shout out to you, Shadasha Green,
Yeah, man.
Savannah
She pulled it
Marshall. That
off,
was the
man.
best. That was the best fight of the night. And you know
Yep.
what? I'm kind of happy for Green because she's very humble. She comes off as very likable, and you can see the emotion after she won. I could feel that. You know what I mean? It resonated with me, man, and it makes you really appreciate all the hard work that she had to go through. And yeah, I was happy for her, man. I
Yo,
thought I thought Savannah Marshall nicked it, but I'm not going to complain. I mean, it's not crazy for Green to get that decision.
yeah. Okay. So, and a couple things, right?
Go
Like,
ahead.
so back to the Serrano fight, real quick, because I just saw in the chat earlier, like that somebody said Serrano won. I kind of felt like Serrano won. Watching it, I think I was bugging judging because people around me was like, no. I'm sitting next to Serrano's aunt. Serrano's aunt and Serrano's family is right behind me. Her aunt, her uncle, like they're showing me pictures and stuff before the fight of them visiting Serrano and
Oh, so you was hanging out with Serrano's family?
yeah, yeah. So I was with
Oh,
Serrano's
that's
family,
that's
right?
fucking cool, man. Good for
Right,
you,
and
bro.
I say that to say this too, right? Like so behind, so after before the scores read, I looked behind me and I said, maybe she pulled it off, and then they said like this.
Oh, so the family thought she
The
lost.
family thought she lost, bro.
Oh wow, Jesse,
Like
that's
this.
that's some that's some
So
breaking news shit you just dropped there.
so
Wow,
so when they said that, I was like, yo, I was definitely bugging judging the fight because if her own family that was sitting next to me was like, nah. Like my son was like, yeah, you saw that? He was like, her aunt said no, yo, and
Jesse, I'm
I'm
not
trying.
even I can't even get mad at you. You're a Baricua, so you're a little biased when you're scoring that fight. So
Yeah,
I'm not
I
even I'm
wasn't
not
even
even
really
I'm not
scoring
even
them
gonna
like
give
that.
I'm not even gonna give you shit, Jesse, because You
I
know,
kind of just was saying
that's your
that. Oh,
people. That's your people, Jess,
I
right?
was like, Taylor's scared, but yo, the crazy part though, when her aunt
You
and
thought Taylor was scared?
they were both fighting so cautious. You
Yeah,
know,
you didn't like it. You just didn't like it.
I was like, I hated the match, bro. Like, I mean, the atmosphere was great, but even my friend and my son were like, "Come on, it's a little fun." I was like, "Nah, you don't understand. Being here in the first fight to this, like,
Oh, you were there live for the first one. That's right.
yeah, I was there for the first one. I was like,
Yeah.
nah, this is. I was like, what is this? you know?
Let me ask you this because it was crazy. Um, I didn't see Eddie Hearn all night, and I was like, is Eddie Hearn here? Did he even show up? Did Jake block him? Did Jake
Yeah,
block him from coming in because you know how they have beef and stuff?
yeah.
And then right when they announced Katie, he just pops up in the ring. Like, was he? Did you see him in the stands at all anywhere, or where? Like, was he? Was he?
I didn't see him. I don't know. I
Did he
didn't
just
really.
pop?
I
So he
saw.
just popped out of nowhere. He just popped out of nowhere
Yeah,
then.
I saw Jake walking around. Me and my son saw
Yeah,
Jake. We had pretty good seats where we could see the floor
yeah,
seats people.
yeah,
And then what you call it? The but I know that so I thought that was funny that
yeah.
her aunt and uncle were like no, and I was like, oh shit, maybe I'm bugging. So I was like, all right,
Yeah, I didn't think she won, bro. I was
but
scoring the fight, and I had it 97, 93, and I thought this was the clearest of all three fights that Katie won, in my opinion. I thought this was the clearest victory out of
there
the
was a
three.
couple of people around me that were like, nah, Katie won. So I was like, oh, okay, okay.
Yeah,
And then
Katie won,
um,
right?
what you call it? So and then the green fight, right? A
Yeah,
point
tell
for
me about
holding.
that. Tell me about that. What was the reaction to that? How, like,
Nobody knew what the point was taken away
no,
for him.
no. Besides the point, though, I'll let you get back to that. But what was the general consensus? Who did people think won that fight? Because I'm curious. Because I guess, like again, I thought Marshall won that fight, and the broadcast team even thought Marshall won that fight. But I can't argue though, because
Well,
Green did come on. Like, tell me what the reaction to that decision was, because I'm curious to see what the people there thought.
everybody was pretty happy, but and then so you know
But
what I.
did they think Green, like, before the decision was announced? Who did, just like you said, like the Serrano?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Who did people think we're going to get that one?
Toss up. Like
Okay,
we were
okay.
looking like at each other like
We
I don't
don't
know.
know,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
We don't
yeah, yeah.
know.
Like you think she
Yeah,
pulled it off, you know?
yeah.
So
I was happy she won though.
one.
I'm not mad. Green won. Like I said, I mean,
I like Green.
you could tell that
Baumgartner didn't
was,
look that great.
yeah, yeah. You could tell that, like, that was genuine. How she felt like after the fight, the reaction to that, like you could feel that, man. You know,
Yeah,
that
she
was
was
cool.
disappointed in herself, you know. Like you said, you know, it's see, but you know, you swing for the fences, right, and you hope for the best,
Sure.
and you know, like the oh yeah, and then what you could tell where the fight is really dead, the Serrano Taylor. Everybody stood seated for the last round. Usually, like at
Oh
fights,
yeah, there was no, so no one was jumping up, going crazy during that fight. It was kind of quiet. No one was getting up,
well,
going.
and usually like an exciting fight, everybody stands up for the last round.
Was Rosie Perez there? I didn't see Rosie Perez there last
I
night.
didn't
She
see
didn't show
her.
up. She didn't
I
show
didn't
up.
see her. I didn't see
For
her, but
for
Netflix
so
was
for
like right there next to us though. And then I walked around a couple, like I walked the halls a couple times. I didn't really see nobody. Like usually I bump into somebody, but I didn't. But I hung out with the Serrano family though. That was pretty cool.
yeah.
You know.
What did you think of when Ariel Hawani was interviewing Ramadan Ali, and he said, "I think you lost the fight." That was kind of wild, right? When he was interviewing, you remember that?
That's funny. I didn't see that. No,
Oh yeah,
that's
yeah.
funny.
Okay, okay, because that's
We
crazy.
because we I kept like walking the halls like and like after the fights were over,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
got soda or something, going to the bathroom and stuff. So, and plus, I don't like him as a boxing and he lost me at the.
A lot of people don't like him. You know what I don't like about him? He's too fanboyish. Like, bro, you're there to commentate. He's acting like he's promoting the event, and obviously, I know you're part of the event, so you want the event to do well, and you don't want to downplay the event. But he's acting like a promoter. Oh, you're the best of all time, and like, bro, like you're geeking out too much, bro. Like, I understand that you love the fights like me, but when you're there to do a job, like you see when I do interviews, how I don't like fucking You see when I interview Samson and shit, I'm not a dick to him, but I give him a real interview. I'm not like, oh
Yeah,
Samson,
yeah,
like, bro, you're supposed to be a professional. Like, why the fuck are you gushing all over these people, man?
yeah. I don't. He lost
It's,
me at the press conference when all his question to, like he didn't do no research on any other the other girl boxers. His only question to them was, "Who do you think is going to win Taylor Serrano 3?" But
yeah, that's cornball shit. It's horrible.
that's such a like generic
It's fucking lame, bro.
almost disrespectful in a way.
Yup.
Um, what but yeah. So now this was bad, right? Like you don't think this fight was bad though? The third fight.
Oh, it wasn't like in comparison to the first two. Yeah, it was a downer. I'm not saying that was a
Has there
great
ever
fight.
been this? And I mean, you're a pretty knowledgeable boxing historian.
Sure.
Has there ever been this in like has there ever been like two great
Well,
fights and then trilogies just oh Vasquez Marquez, right? Didn't Vasquez
well,
Marquez three?
here's the thing, Jess. You got spoiled. You got spoiled because you're so wrapped up in those four Pacquiao fights, Pacquiao Marquez, right? Because
Yeah.
that's your shit right there. You always tell me, yeah, man, I just watched the Pacquiao fight again. I just like, how many times a year do you watch those fights, bro? Especially you love the first one, right?
I watch it a lot. Yeah, the first
Yeah,
one's my favorite
yeah.
fight of all
So
time.
so you're so what you're doing is you're looking at that and everything, and you're trying to compare all these other trilogies. Like for instance, right?
But Gotti Ward, right? Wasn't the Gotti
Yeah,
Ward
though
trilogy?
that was another one too. But when you looked at the second Usyk Fury fight, that was a huge letdown, right?
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah,
was a huge letdown. And
yeah.
Bivol Better Beef, those fights were okay. They weren't barn burners either, right? I just think you know you would have thought that based off of what we saw in the first two fights that was what we were going to see if these women fought 10 times, and that just wasn't
Yeah,
the case because
yeah.
again when you get old, Katie Taylor's 39, right? It's like she's got a different mentality. Paulie Malignaggi says this all the time. He goes, when you get older and you made some money, you say to yourself, do I want to put my body through this shit again? Keep doing this shit to myself, or do I want to kind of like take my foot off the pedal a little bit and coast and try to just like even Canelo. Canelo is just like going through cruise control in these fights now. He's not like fighting with a sense of urgency. He's not putting his foot on the gas pedal. He's just like coasting through rounds, and he's happy to win easy decisions, right? Clear, wide decisions. He's not overextending or overexerting himself. When he's fighting that guy's skull, he's saying to himself, "Yo, this dude's running around the whole ring. I'm not fucking chasing this fucking dude, right?" You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? It's
yeah.
like, why the fuck do I want to do that at this stage? I'm getting paid anyways, one way or the other. I'll just win, exerting the least amount of energy possible. But like I said, and like you said, these girls put themselves through hell the first two fights, and you could see in the second fight in particular, both girls were banged up. Their face was busted up, and you saw Amanda Serrano's eyes. So they're saying to themselves, you know what? I don't want to keep
So
getting these fucking stitches. I got enough scar tissue on my face already.
the funny thing about that too, right, is that we had a friend with us that saw the second fight from the Paul Tyson undercard, and that's why he
Yeah,
wanted to come.
yeah,
But he didn't really follow boxing like that.
yeah,
And it's funny he made that exact compare. Like we were like, so I was like, damn man, I was really let down by it because you know how excited I was for this fight,
yeah.
and I was like, I mean, it was a good time in person. That like in person, the way and MSG, the Garden itself, blows the small theater, blows the Barclays out the water as for events. It's just
Oh,
as far.
that's just history. Like, I don't give a fuck how big the arena is, how like Allegiant Stadium. It's like fucking people that people tell me that place is amazing, but Madison Square Garden is just etched
The
in
Mecca.
it's
Yeah,
etched
yeah,
in history. Like you can't compete with that.
yeah. And then, so it's funny then that way. So I was telling him how disappointed I was in the fight, and he's like, "Yo, bro," he was like, and he told me like coming up, you know, him and this dude got into three fights, and he was like, he got the best of me one time, I got the best of him the second time, and we were super cautious the third time because we both felt each other's. He's like, any human being, that shit hurts. It might be a fun fight, but you don't want to go through that kind of
Well,
pain, right?
let me
So
let me make the analogy, Jess.
yeah, yeah.
like when you're a kid and you touch the hot stove and you burn your hand. You don't want to
Yeah,
go back, keep going back to the hot stove and touching that fucking thing because you don't want to get burnt again, right? These guys know, you know, and they felt the damage that they had to suffer, and they say to themselves, "I know what this guy can do to me, right? The juice isn't worth the squeeze anymore. Like fuck it, right?
yeah. They got paid, and
It's
they
a
were like,
third fight. We're here. We got the money, and
but
I'm gonna try to win, but I'm not gonna try to kill. I'm not gonna try to get killed in there either.
shout out to Drunken Irishman in the chat because he's right, yo. Katie has contention to be the goat of women's boxing. The
Yeah,
quote.
and Clarissa Shields is not gonna like that. But here's the thing, bro. Like Katie Taylor has had career defining fights. She's been in there with the best of the best, right? You got to give her credit. She's been in there with, like, she's had 50-50 fights like Natasha Jonas, like I said, Delphine Persoon, Jessica McCaskill, Chantel Cameron, and now Amanda Serrano. And I know I give Amanda Serrano a lot of shit, but you know, she's a great fighter. But you can't put her at Katie Taylor's level because she's never really won a career defining fight where she's 50-50 with somebody and she beat them. Katie Taylor avenged the loss against Chantel Cameron. Like she's been in some tough 50-50 fights and she was the underdog, Jess. The underdog going into this fight. And I was like perplexed looking at the odds and like I don't know what people were thinking. Like people were saying, okay, Katie won the first two. They were close. They gotta give Amanda one of them. Maybe was that the mentality going in with people's perception? I don't know.
I'll tell you what
But
happened.
go ahead, tell me.
I could break it down.
Go ahead, tell me.
So the betting wise, so the bet structure happens if a lot of people are getting betted on, they become the favorite, right? Or
Go
or the
ahead.
odds calm down. Like a lot of
Yeah,
people are betting on Crawford, so
yeah.
now the odds are pretty much even. A lot of people, and I'm not saying if they're right or wrong, but a pretty common consensus was that Serrano won the second fight and got robbed. And now
Really?
most people watch that. I've
I don't know.
heard
I think there
from a
was
lot of
enough.
people
You
who
know
are.
what it was? Again, Rosie Perez was doing commentary there, and she was scoring the fight herself. And I think a lot of people get looped into the commentary. And um, I don't know. I'm not saying there weren't a good amount of people that thought Taylor won. I don't mean to cut you off either, but I don't know. Now, did you think Taylor Serrano won the second fight yourself when you
I thought
watched it?
so. I
Okay,
thought
fair enough.
I have to watch it again. I have to
All right,
watch it
fair
again.
enough. Go ahead. Finish what you're saying, man. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
But a lot of people thought that. A lot of casuals thought that, and me
Okay.
included, thought that Serrano won the second fight.
Okay. Okay.
Um, and they're like, "Oh, Serrano Taylor again." So she got robbed the second time. She's gonna win this time, and a lot of the betting line
All
went
right.
towards her.
Okay. So so
That's what
so
happened.
based off of people you've talked to and interacted with, a lot of people anecdotally thought. Yeah. See, what's crazy when you look at. I love doing this, Jess. I don't know if you did. If you go to BoxRec and you look at there's a tab that's called scores, and you could look at the average fan scorecard. And the average fan scorecard on BoxRec, 204 fans scored that second fight. They had it 95-95, Jess. So you could argue it was like 50-50, maybe even 55-45, like Serrano's way. Maybe there was that small consensus, that little shift on Serrano's side to think that she won that fight. Okay, so that makes sense, Jess. All right,
But
that
but
makes
the bo-
sense.
but the boxing fan in me felt that and I told you this. I said I feel like Taylor's gonna win tonight.
Yeah,
Because
you
like,
did say
you,
that. You
you
did
you
say
kept
that.
I was like, because sometimes a boxer just has your number. Is
Yes,
another you know like
yes,
who do you
yes. Yeah. So when you
and
look
I was
at the average fan scorecard, let's look at the average fan scorecard for all three fights. I love doing this because it's kind of gives you the general consensus of like what the people the fans think. People watching the fight. So the first fight, the fans 267 fans scored the fight, and the first fight they said Katie Taylor won 96-94, which was my scorecard because I just remember Katie Taylor clearly winning the last three rounds of that fight. And most people, if you watch that fight, it was clear that Katie Taylor won the first three and she won the second three in the first fight.
Yeah.
So the fan consensus there was 96-94 for Taylor, right? Almost 300 people scored that fight. Let's look at the second one. Second one, we said it was 95-95, and about 200 people scored that fight. Now let's look at the third one. Let's take a look at the scores, the fans. So 70 people so far scored the um, third fight, and this is the clearest of victories here. They had it 97-94 for Taylor, 70 scores. I'm sure more people will put their scores in, but out of 70 people on the BoxRec website scored the fight, and they had it 97-94 for Katie Taylor, and they had the first round even, which is why they had it 97-94. So this was probably the
Yeah. How can
clearest.
the first round
This was
not
the
be
clearest
even?
victory, right, Jess? Would you say for Katie Taylor, this was the clearest
Yeah,
victory?
yeah, yeah. How can the first round not be even though none of them threw a punch? That
Yeah,
has to be a 10-10
yeah,
round, right?
yeah. You could. I mean, you could argue that. Let's look at Steve Weisfeld's scorecard. He had the first round for Taylor. He gave the
That's
second
because
round.
my friend didn't understand neither. He said that's bullshit. I said if it's a tie, it usually goes to the champion. He's like that shouldn't be, but I'm pretty
Nah.
sure that's how it works, right?
Oh no. I mean, like again, it just it depends. Like you can score even rounds if you want. Um, am I going to say that some people don't have that thought process that you just explained? That some people, if it's a close round, they're going to give it to the champion if that's what they want to do. That they can do that. Should they do that? No. I mean, they should just look at who did that, who did that little bit more in the round where I could swing it someplace. You know what I mean? So yeah, but do I am I going to say that some people don't give close rounds to the champion, or do some people, while they're watching a fight, are they going to give close rounds to the A side because they think the judges are going to give it to the A side? I'm sure people do that. And again, people like to say judges are bought and paid for, they're corrupt. But I think judges going in,
It's a hard job, man.
when judges are going in there, they probably have a preconceived bias because they're hearing a lot of things, and there's perception about certain fighters, and they kind of buy into that perception, and it's embedded in their brains when they're going into the fight. So I think sometimes there is a subconscious bias to A side fighters, right? They're sitting there saying, well, you know what? It's a close round, I'm just gonna give it to the more popular guy. That could happen. That could happen, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean I've always been from the understanding that a tied round goes to the champion, maybe it's a ten
well,
ten
it's
round.
not written in stone, but again, you will hear people say that. So I'm not gonna say you're crazy for
Because
saying
how
that.
do you I honestly, how do you give a round to somebody? I mean, I guess I don't know if you did you ask Weisfield this too. I feel like a judge did say that there's other factors in it, but how do you
I don't think I've ever seen, now that you mention it, since you brought him up. I don't think I've ever seen a fight where Steve Weisfeld scored an even round. I'm sure he may have done it at some point in his career. I've never seen it.
yeah, he tends to favor the A side. I'm sorry to say that, but just
Yeah, he's considered the best scorer in boxing, but we've looked at some of his scores and we were like, nah, I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
like for instance, you were very critical, and so was
The
I.
Canelo Beaver one
Yeah, the
was
Canelo Beaver
crazy.
one was the one that stood out. He had it 115 and 113, and I guess those first four rounds or so were kind of close. But you would have, in order to make that fight 115 and 113 for Bivol, you'd have to give all four, like the first four rounds to Canelo, and I find it hard to believe that you couldn't at least swing one or two of those rounds to Bivol.
And I
So
bet you he didn't do that. I bet you
yeah,
if you
he
look at
he
his
didn't. He
scorecard.
didn't. He gave all the first 4 rounds to Canelo, and I think because they were quiet rounds and they were uneventful, said to himself, you know what, I'm just going to give it to the more popular guy, probably. I'm going to give it to the A side guy. And let's not forget, right? Katie Taylor is 39 years old, and she's still performing at a high level. That's 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 that's
Yeah,
that's incredible. That's incredible. That says
but
something about her.
this is her swan song, right? She's going out on this one.
I have a feeling that she may fight Chantel Cameron in Croke Park in Ireland, in her home country. That could be the swan song. But then she said something after the fight, and I've never heard her talk shit like this because I think she doesn't like Chantel Cameron. Like her and her and Katie Taylor, excuse me, her and Amanda Serrano have like that competitive rivalry, but you could tell they like each other, they respect
Yeah,
each other.
yeah,
I'm sure she respects Chantel Cameron, but I don't think she likes Chantel Cameron because of what she said at the post fight press conference. She's like, well, because she was asked if she wants to fight Chantel Cameron again, and she was like, well, Chantel Cameron can't even sell out an arena with 1,000 people. She can't even put 1,000 people in an arena. So when she does that, maybe I'll fight her. So maybe she is gonna put the maybe like I've never heard her say shit like that. That was the
nah,
first time I
Katie
ever.
don't talk
Yeah,
shit.
that she's not like that. So she's like, I'm saying to myself, she really doesn't like Chantel Cameron. She
Yeah,
really doesn't like Chantel Cameron. So maybe she won't fight her because she doesn't like her.
yeah,
And again, she can make good money with Chantel Cameron, but she's not going to make the same amount of money she made with Amanda Serrano. She's not going to make the same amount of money she made with Amanda Serrano, in my
yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, man. So who you like tonight, man? I
Yeah,
got.
Shakur Stevenson is an overwhelming favorite, man. Overwhelming favorite, and
You think a draw is possible?
I think it's highly unlikely.
Yeah.
I think it's highly unlikely. You love them fucking draws. You always bet the draw, don't you?
I
Like
used to bet the
you
draw all the
love the
time.
fucking
Yeah,
draw. You know, I have to say, William Zepeda did not look good against Tevin Farmer both times. Both times. He had a split decision victory and he had a majority decision in the second one. And
but he won them though. Like he
he
didn't
won the
look great, but he
fights.
won them.
He won the fights. I think I had him winning both fights. A lot of people thought he lost the first one. Let's
Yeah.
look what the average fan scorecard was for the first one. I love looking at these average fan scorecards. Yeah, the fans had him winning the first fight, 115 to 113, as I did. Like it was a close fight, I thought. And the second fight, I thought he won probably clearer too. I thought he won a little wider, but he showed some vulnerability in that fight. And I say to myself, if I'm being honest, Shakur Stevenson can do everything that Tevin Farmer can do and more. And I don't like to do the combat math thing because styles make fights. But like I said, he was in there with the guy who was quicker than him and Tevin Farmer, who seemed to be outmaneuvering him, getting off first. He had a hard time catching up to him. Shakur Stevenson is way faster than Tevin Farmer. So imagine what he's going to be able to do in there. But the interesting thing here is you got a guy like William Zepeda who is the pressure guy. He's a little bigger. It's going to come with the volume. But Shakur Stevenson, like I said, he's a versatile guy. He can counter punch. He can box on the outside, and he can even get his shit off on the inside when he has to. So if you force him to fight, he's going to fight. But will Williams Zepeda's volume go down if he's coming forward and he keeps getting tagged on the way in? Because Pacquiao was a volume guy his whole career, but you saw when he fought a guy like Marquez how in those 4 fights the volume went significantly down. So because I believe that Shakur Stevenson has such a advantage in speed with his feet and with his hands, will he be able to outmaneuver Williams Zepeda? Will he be able to just step around him or step back and just catch him on the way in, sort of like when Floyd used to catch guys on the way in with that right hand? Will Shakur Stevenson be able to do that with his jab and with his straight left? I think so. I think so. I mean, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. I have a feeling that I don't think Shakur Stevenson is going to knock out William Zepeda, but I think we're going to see William Zepeda. This is going to be like a cat and mouse type fight where William Zepeda is going to come forward, and you're going to see Shakur Stevenson just kind of sliding back, stepping off to the side, stopping and popping, and he's going to be walking William Zepeda into a lot of counter shots here. And what I'm curious of will Shakur Stevenson spend some time on the inside with William Zepeda? Because will he say to himself, like he did with Oscar Valdez, he held his ground a little bit against Valdez because he had such a speed advantage. He felt like he could get his stuff off quick and have enough time to get out of there. So he spent a little time in the pocket. Will he fight Valdez in a similar fashion will he fight Zepeda in the same fashion that he fought Valdez in? That's a question that I'm asking myself right here. Or will he fight more of a safety first fight on the outside? I don't know. There's some pressure on him because obviously he's been criticized of kind of just going through the motion in fights and not really fighting in an exciting, aggressive way, doing just enough to nick rounds and kind of coasting. Will Zepeda allow him to coast, or will Shakur try to mix it up a little bit and take a little bit of chances because he feels as though he's that much quicker and he can get in and get out quick enough? So, like he did against Valdez. That's the question, and I'm curious to see if that happens. But hopefully he does do that a little bit, for the sake of entertainment value of the fight. I mean, I'm hoping he does that, but it remains to be seen if he will. So let's look at the main event. And it's crazy that this is the main event and the title fight is not, But hopefully this fight could carry the show. This fight is the main event, and hopefully these guys prove why it should be the main event. And I'm talking about Hamza Sheeraz and Edgar Berlanga. Sheeraz, I thought he lost his last fight against Adames. The fight was ruled a draw. I had him losing 115 to 113, as most fans did as well. Let's take a look and see how the general consensus of the fans. Yeah, most people thought Adames won that fight. The average fan scorecard actually was wider than mine at 116 to 112. 184 fans scored that fight, and they had it 116 to 112. I had it 115 to 113 for Adames. I thought Adames won the fight. So, it is what it is. Was Sheeraz hurt in that fight? He showed his hand after the fight. His hand was really swollen. Was he having problems making the 160? These are all questions that are going to be answered tonight. Edgar Berlanga has never impressed me. He just hasn't. He's never another fighter who's never had that career-defining fight. I thought it was hilarious at the press conference watching him and Oscar De La Hoya go back and forth. And Oscar De La Hoya, who's not always, a wordsmith, right? He normally doesn't usually get the best of people when it comes to talking trash back and forth. But Oscar De La Hoya laid the mic drop on him and said, "How many titles do you have? Right? When are you going to win a world title? Right?" And that was the mic drop. So, again, I'm not a huge fan of Berlanga. I just don't like the way he comes off in public. Maybe it's an act, maybe it's not. I don't know, but it just seems like a lot of there's a fake persona that he tries to put out there to the public. In my opinion, he acts like he's already made it, and I'm sure he's made some good money. He fought Canelo, and he's had Eddie Hearn behind him. He's had Top Rank behind him. I'm sure he made some money, right? He likes to flaunt that jewelry or whatever. That's fine, but he acts like he's already done things. Like he acts like he's been a world champion. He seems like he's overly pleased with himself, and he hasn't really accomplished great things yet, right? It's good. It's good that you made money, right? It's good that you've been the main event in a lot of your fights. It's good that you're being promoted well. It's good that you're going to be in another big fight. In a main event. You're going to be fighting in a stadium in New York, and I'm sure it'll be filled. I'm not sure if it'll be sold out, but I think a good amount of people will be there because this is a solid card. You got Alberto Puello versus Subal Matisse. I think Puello will probably win that one. You got Dave Morrell coming back against Katiev, right? That's another one. Curious to see how Dave Morrell bounces back from that loss from David Benavidez. But this Sheeraz fight is very intriguing. And Sheeraz, like I said, 21-0, 17 knockouts, big puncher. He's been in there with some decent guys. Liam Williams, that's a decent victory, first round knockout. Tyler Denny's a solid win for him. Austin Ammo Williams, that was a kind of a 50-50 fight. He was slightly favored possibly, but a lot of people thought Williams would win that fight, and he came up with a big 11th round KO. So, and then the fight with Adames, he didn't look great in that fight, but he held his own. I mean, it's not like he got blown out of there. I thought Adames edged him 115 to 113. So I flipped one round. It's not impossible to score that fight or draw. I just didn't think it was, in my opinion. So Sheeraz, he's more of a sharpshooter too. He's a very precise guy. He's a tall, long guy. He's got a great jab. And he knows how to measure people and shoot that right hand straight down the middle. But he also's got a short little hook on the inside, short little uppercut on the inside. And he's a very accurate puncher, places his shots well. And he's a fluid guy where Berlanga's more of he's really rough around the edges. He throws those wide winging shots. Another mid-range guy, in my opinion. Very sloppy when he gets up close, smothers his work. So I think Sheeraz can just win this fight. Easier said than done, but I think he can win this fight at long distance. Taller, longer guy. Keep that jab in Berlanga's face. And if he hits him clean with that right hand, that's going to be a problem. That is going to be definitely going to be a problem. 6'3", 75-inch reach, right? That is definitely going to be a problem. I think Sheeraz may get the knockout in this fight. I think he may get the knockout in this fight. But here's the thing with Berlanga. Because Berlanga likes to move around the ring too. Like when he's not in there with the guy he can overwhelm, right? When he's in there with a guy who he feels is a threat, right? He fights differently. We saw it with Canelo, right? We saw it with Canelo where he was a little bit more reserved, right? He had that knockout streak, that 18 fight knockout streak. And then once he started stepping up the competition, you started seeing those knockouts go away, right? You started seeing like even with Jason Quigley, that was a fight where he just looked, it was lackluster to me, right? Roma Angulo, another one. Some people even thought he lost that fight, right? Steve Rolls, he struggled with Steve Rolls, right? That was another fight that was probably more competitive than it should have been. And you go like the average fan scorecard for that fight was a draw. That was a razor close fight with Steve Rolls. You're not supposed to be going nip and tuck with Steve Rolls if you're the man, right? If you're the man. So we've seen some, and then Demon Nicholson, another one. He went 8 rounds with him in a very lackluster fight. So, we see him kind of not be that monster and not be that aggressive guy when he's across the ring from someone who's not just going to wilt, not going to just give in. When he's in there with somebody, right, who's there to fight him, the whole attitude changes in there. Right? The whole approach to the fight changes in there. And my opinion, he did go into survival mode against Canelo. He wasn't fighting to win. He was fighting to not get knocked out, in my opinion. Right? And again, I'm not the guy standing across the ring from Canelo. But what I'm wondering is if Sheeraz lands a right hand and hurts him, how will he react to that? Will he go into that defensive mode like he did against Canelo? Because we seen Emil Williams buzz Sheeraz, and Sheeraz came back and knocked him out. Like Emil Williams hurt Sheeraz. Adames was landing good shots again. We know I believe based off what I've seen, Sheeraz is not going to fold his tent and go home. Right? He's not going to go into survival mode. He's going to still fight the way he fights. Right? But he can't be complacent in there either. Sometimes he lets long periods of time go by in the round where he's not very active. He'll stay on the outside, just kind of probe, take his time a little bit, and try to feel out his opponent a little too much. And if he does that, he can give up rounds that way, right? By kind of fighting in spurts. He needs to be more consistent as well with his activity, right? So I think the onus, in my opinion, is going to be on Sheeraz to dictate the pace of this fight, right? Because I don't think Berlanga is going to come out aggressive because I would, regardless of what he says, he knows he's in there with a big, strong, hot, up and coming guy. He's not going to go in there as he would, as if he was fighting one of those opponents in his first 18 fights. He's just not going to do it. But Sheeraz, he's got some dog in him. I mean, at some point, he will step to Berlanga, in my opinion. Question is, how will Berlanga react when that happens? So I'm picking Sheeraz by 10th round stoppage in this fight, right? Let's take a look at the odds here. I'll pull the odds up. I'm curious to see how people are viewing this fight. Wow, it's a tight fight. Really, really tight fight. Wow. This is a pick'em fight almost. Sheeraz is a minus 155. Edgar Berlanga is a plus 125. The over under in rounds is 10.5, and the under is a plus 115, and the over is a minus 155. So this is tight. This is tight. There's still some faith in Berlanga out there. I don't necessarily overly believe in him, but here's an interesting thing. Let's look at the KO prop for both fighters. And I don't think I can't remember the last time, if ever, I saw this, where you have Edgar Berlanga at a plus 260 by KO, and you have Sheeraz equally at a plus 260 as well with the KO proposition. But here's where it gets interesting. Sheeraz is a plus 180 by decision, where Berlanga is a plus 425. So the general consensus with Berlanga is the only way he wins this fight is if he stops Sheeraz, and people believe that he can't. Some people believe he can do that, or enough people believe he can do that. Whereas there's not much faith in him winning a decision. Whereas people think Sheeraz has an ability to either knock him out or win by decision. So like my partner Eric Lora loves to say and always does say, I'm going to go with the guy who has more ways to win. And what this is telling me is, I already believed it myself, but what this tells me is a lot of other people believe and agree with me too, where I think it's safe to say Hamza Sheeraz has more ways to win in this fight, where Berlanga has not shown us, at least to this point, that he has superior boxing skills. He's a guy who just can punch, right? Loads up, very kind of predictable pattern, same attack pattern, winging wide shots, not the quickest guy on his feet. So again, I think Sheeraz is the better boxer here, but he's also equally, and you could argue maybe even a harder puncher, right, than Berlanga. But we'll see about that, because he is moving up in weight, but he's got the frame, definitely, in my opinion, to hold the 168 pounds. So this isn't like the same as Conor Benn moving up to 160. This is a guy who's is probably more than able to hold the 168 pounds. So I'm going to pick Sheeraz, I think, by KO, because I think once Sheeraz feels as though he can hurt Berlanga, it's not going to do what Canelo did. He's not going to coast. He's a young and hungry guy, where Canelo probably isn't as hungry as he once was. This is a guy who's looking to make a statement. He knows that his stock dropped a little bit off that performance against Adames. So the stage is set for him to shine tonight. And I think he'll embrace that challenge, and I think he welcomes that challenge, and I think he'll live up to that challenge, and I think he will have a career defining performance tonight. I would even argue this may be his best performance in his career tonight. I have high expectations of Sheeraz tonight, and I think he'll live up to that. Unfortunately, I don't have high expectations for Berlanga, but one thing we do know is if Berlanga loses, but he goes the distance, he's probably going to go home and have a parade again, like he did against Canelo, right? So we'll see. I think Shakur is going to win a wide 10-2, 9-3 type decision. I just think he'll be too quick for Zepeda, and I even think that Zepeda won't come with the same amount of aggression and pressure because he's going to be getting countered. And it's hard. It's hard to be that pressure guy, be that volume guy, when every time you try to step to your opponent, you're getting countered. And again, I'll go back to the Pacquiao Marquez 4 fights, where Pacquiao was throwing 1,000 punches around fight, against most of his previous opponents, 900,000 punches, whereas his punch output significantly diminished against Marquez because he was in there with a guy who caught him on the way in and was able to time him. And I just think because Shakur's so much quicker with both his hands and his feet, he's just such a superior boxer. I think you may see Zepeda's volume go down in this fight, and this could be a one-sided fight. I hope I'm wrong. I would love to see a competitive fight. I wouldn't even mind seeing Zepeda pull the upset here. Right? I wouldn't even mind that. I don't got a dog in the race, but yeah, I just think Shakur's too good, and there's a reason why he's a minus 800 tonight. There's a reason why. Like, it's not rocket science. Okay, I'm a little surprised though that this Sheeraz Berlanga fight is so tight with the odds. But then again, maybe I'm not, because again, let's look at Shiraz's last fight. He's moving up, and he's still got a lot to prove too. So we'll see. Okay, guys, make sure you check out the Ringside Reporter podcast tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern time, with myself and my partner Eric Lorda. We will go live. We'll be recapping tonight's action. Obviously, make sure you call in if you want to talk to us. And I'll see you soon. See you next time. Have a great night. Enjoy the fights tonight. Take care, everyone.